Hey gang, today I want to talk about how being smart is a curse. Being smart means you worry about things a lot. You think about things way too much. You struggle to make decisions. You get stressed out about potential problems you might encounter down the road. The curse of being smart is actually something our greatest writers have been warning us about for centuries. Several of the most famous books ever written are actually cautionary tales about the dangers of human intelligence. In this video, I'm going to talk about 3 of these great books. Each one identifies a different problem associated with human intelligence. And by the end of the video, we'll see if there's a way to break the curse of being smart. Let's begin with problem 1. Intelligence gives us the illusion of control. The most famous cursed guy of all time is probably Oedipus. Oedipus was the guy who unknowingly murdered his father and married his mother, but arguably his story is really about how human knowledge itself is a kind of curse. See, Oedipus's intelligence is a huge part of how he gets himself into trouble. When he's a young man growing up in Corinth, he receives this prophecy that says he's going to grow up to murder his father and marry his own mother. So he doesn't want that to happen. So he leaves town. He leaves Corinth. And as he travels along the road, he meets this stranger at a crossroads. They get into an argument and he kills this random guy. Later, he arrives at the city of Thebes to find out that that city is being harassed by a sphinx. And as everybody knows, the only way to defeat a sphinx is to solve its riddle. You got to solve the riddle of the sphinx. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs in the evening? The answer is a man. In the morning, he's a baby crawling on 4 legs. In the afternoon, an adult. And in the evening, he's an old man with a cane. 3 legs. So Oedipus solves the riddle, he frees Thebes, and as a reward, he gets to be married to the city's newly single Queen Jocasta. Her husband, King Laius, was mysteriously murdered at a crossroads recently. We can all see where this is going. But this is where Oedipus being smart becomes a huge problem. The story Oedipus Rex, as told by the ancient Greek playwright Sophocles, picks up the story years later. After Oedipus has had a bunch of kids with his mom, there's now a new plague in Thebes because of all the moral pollution. And Oedipus has to investigate the cause of this disaster. He learns that he has to figure out who it was who killed the king. Who is responsible for all this? Oedipus has to solve this mystery to end the plague. But don't worry, right? Oedipus is a smart guy. He is wise. He's the one who solved the riddle of the Sphinx. He's a guy who can figure things out. All he has to do is apply his smarts to this problem and he'll fix everything. And Oedipus does eventually figure this out. He was born as a baby to King Laius and Queen Jocasta, and they received the prophecy that this baby's going to grow up and murder his father and marry his mother. They don't want that to happen, so they send the baby away. Unbeknownst to them, the baby is adopted by the king and queen of Corinth, and he grows up to be Oedipus. And Oedipus gets this prophecy that he's going to murder his father and marry his mother, so he leaves town. And in trying to avoid his fate, he ends up walking right into his fate. The man he killed at the crossroads was King Laius. The woman he married, the queen he married, was his mother, Jocasta. So just think about what this play teaches us about the nature of human wisdom, about what we can know. First, Oedipus as a hero is smart. That's what makes him a hero. He solves riddles for a living. But Oedipus unwittingly fulfills this prophecy because he lacks knowledge. As smart as he is, he does not know everything, and his lack of knowledge causes him to make terrible mistakes. And you would think that the solution to this problem is more knowledge. He just needs to know more things. He should have checked if he was secretly adopted before he started dating anybody. But in this play, more knowledge is bad. The more Oedipus learns, the more terrible his situation becomes. When he learns the truth, he is destroyed by it. So awful is the realization of his guilt that Oedipus blinds himself. Now, what are we to learn from this story? What is the average person supposed to take away? Oedipus makes the mistake of believing that his knowledge grants him power. And in a way, it literally does. He solves a riddle and becomes a king. But this myth suggests that that power, that control that we acquire through our intelligence is ultimately an illusion. No matter how much we know, We never know as much as we need to know. Oedipus is proud of his riddle-solving powers. He thinks he's a smart guy, but he lacks this crucial piece of knowledge and therefore lacks understanding. The real problem that Sophocles identifies is that human wisdom is just inadequate to answer the most fundamental questions. How did Oedipus kill his father? That's kind of a practical, technical question. We can explain how Oedipus killed his father at a crossroads, but why it happened? That's beyond our understanding. Why was Oedipus born? Why are the gods so cruel? Why do human beings suffer? What is the meaning of anything? In the face of those kinds of questions, human intelligence fails us. And so whatever claim human beings might have to knowledge is ultimately insignificant. It's laughable. We think that knowledge gives us power, that it helps us solve problems. But what Sophocles suggests is that this is just an illusion. It's the illusion of control. But this is only part of the picture, only one of the reasons why being smart is a curse. The next problem is that intelligence causes paralysis. Maybe you know the tragedy of Hamlet, but you might not recognize how Hamlet's intelligence is the thing that dooms him. First, Hamlet's father, the king of Denmark, he dies. Then his wife Gertrude marries her brother-in-law, Hamlet's uncle, like a couple months after her husband dies. So her husband dies, she waits a few weeks, she marries his brother. It's very weird. And Hamlet hates this. He's grieving for his father. He's kind of angry with his mother, and he sort of hates his new step-uncle dad. But then it gets worse. Hamlet finds out from a ghost that his father was murdered. Murdered by Claudius. The king was murdered by his brother. Claudius killed King Hamlet in a garden with ear poison. And now Hamlet is faced with a seemingly unsolvable problem. The ghost makes him swear to avenge his father. But can he trust the ghost? Maybe the ghost is a demon in disguise who's trying to damn Hamlet and take his soul to hell. The existence of the ghost confirms that the afterlife exists. So by avenging his father, Hamlet will effectively damn himself. Complicating matters, Hamlet wants to be king himself. Claudius has cut the line. He's jumped the queue, in part by marrying Gertrude. So killing Claudius would allow Hamlet to become king, but how's he going to do that without being accused of treason? On top of that, if he does kill Claudius, doesn't he kind of become Claudius? He becomes exactly like the guy he hates, murdering the king to become the king. And again, is any of that worth going to hell? Is it worth eternal suffering? So Hamlet doesn't know what to do. People sometimes accuse him of being indecisive, but I don't think that does justice to the complexity of Hamlet's situation. Hamlet is incapacitated by his own intelligence. Because he is trying to untangle the ethical, metaphysical, political knot that binds him, he cannot act. Because he understands the implications and the consequences of his choices, he cannot make a choice. He is too thoughtful to take action. Throughout Shakespeare's Hamlet, we see less thoughtful characters act decisively to achieve their goals. Laertes, for example, moves quickly to avenge his father. He doesn't fear death. He doesn't worry about morality. Fortinbras, the Prince of Norway, is similarly daring. He hears the King of Denmark is dead. He shoots his shot. He seizes the opportunity. By the end of the play, he's taken over Denmark. Hamlet is paralyzed by contradictory and competing priorities. At one point in the play, he has the perfect opportunity to kill Claudius. No one else is around. He could get his revenge and seize the throne of Denmark. Except, on second thought, he doesn't want his evil uncle to be killed while praying and so get into heaven on a technicality. In Shakespeare's Hamlet, human intelligence feels like a trap. Hamlet could do a lot of things if he were dumber, but he's too thoughtful. He becomes paralyzed by overanalysis. We too can become paralyzed like this. We spend so much time thinking through possible scenarios, potential consequences, that it becomes impossible for us to take action. This can be very frustrating, which leads us to the third reason why being smart is a curse, potentially the most dangerous problem. The third problem is that intelligence makes us hate the world and other people. In Dostoevsky's famous novel Crime and Punishment, the protagonist, Raskolnikov, is a big thinker. He's a very clever student, but he also holds the world and everyone in it in contempt. He hates his fellow human beings. He isolates himself throughout the novel. He is cynical, and he is critical of everyone around him. At the beginning of this novel, Raskolnikov murders a pawnbroker, this old woman, and he does it basically because he decides himself that her life is worthless. No one will miss her. She doesn't matter. He also does it because, and this is critical, he does it because he thinks he should not be constrained by normal people morality. Raskolnikov thinks he's special. Later in the novel, he makes this argument that extraordinary men, these world historical men, should not be constrained by the rules that can constrain us normies. Really, truly extraordinary great men, people like Napoleon, get to make the rules themselves. They're the ones who decide what's right and what's wrong. I would argue that Raskolnikov clearly thinks that he is a person like this. He's one of these special men who can see through all the illusions and the shadows of society. He can see the real truth that most people are too stupid to see, and this insight liberates him from the chains of morality and goodness. So in Dostoevsky's novel, we meet this man who has studied deeply, studied history and politics and theology. He's thought through religious questions, and he's come to the conclusion that his life is worth more than other people's life, that he matters more than other people do. He is special. He is above them. Other people are insignificant and worthless. That is his brilliant conclusion. Because of his big brain, he knows more than other people. He's better than other people. He is above them, their lives, their hopes, their dreams. All of that is insignificant and meaningless. This, I would say, is one of the biggest dangers associated with intelligence. Smart people can fall into the trap of believing they are better than other people. They know better. They can do better. They are better. However, if you apply this logic strictly, you end up in a lot of trouble. Because there's always someone smarter than you. So if your argument is smarter people get to treat less smart people like garbage, then all you're doing is giving someone else who's smarter than you license to treat you like an insignificant piece of trash. It's easy to make the mistake of thinking that intelligence gives us power, that being smart puts us in control or gives us the right to be in control, and that therefore we should be in charge of everything. That's an easy mistake to make. And this is the impulse I think we have to guard against if we're to break the curse of being smart. The antidote, I think, is humility, recognizing we cannot control everything, that we can't have perfect information before we make any decision, recognizing that we can make errors just like every other human being. Intelligence does not make you invincible. In some cases, it makes it more likely that you will struggle or suffer or make mistakes. If you can remember that, maybe you can break the curse of being smart. If you liked this video, I think you'll like that video. Click on the link. I will see you there, and I'll talk to you soon.